Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Rahul Kashyap. I've been forced to come and talk to all of you guys because there are so many questions. We're recording this today, so hope you like this recording. The questions about ERAS application. There are a couple other videos on the channel. Please check them out. But ERAS application has changed since then. There are some of the highlights I would like to bring up to all of you and then see if we can actually talk about them. Then first and foremost, I would like to bring up is that your ERAS application is not a one-day job. It's not a one-week job. This is something you have to continue working until you get to the deadline. The deadline for this year is September 15th or around that time as well. So if you've not started working, this is a good time for you to start working on it. First and foremost advice is that be truthful. Don't put anything which you can have not done or you can't defend it. We worry a lot about, oh my gosh, I have gap in CV and these things as well. You can put that all into your CV separately in this matter as well. Just put the things which you have done and which you're confident defending it and making sure there's not enough overlap around it. Like if you have too much overlap or different things doing it, people will suspect and that will not reflect well for you. That's the first point. Second point is it comes about what to put into publications, unpublished, publish and all. ERAS application has a CV, is a place where you can actually go down and it says publication other than journal publication. If you click on that, it allows you to list down the information of the abstract which you have submitted somewhere or it is under review process. You can actually include that as well. Be very careful writing the same font size. You can usually uh, follow the type and formatting from a published paper. Go and see if the published paper is. Usually they write down the last name, first initial, comma, last name, first initial of the second author, third author, fourth author, then title of the abstract, title of the project or title of the paper, and then write down the journal. And you can write down journal of blah, 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 August 2020, submitted August 2029. That's all, August 2023. That's all you have to write it. That's it. It build up your CV accordingly once you follow the same pattern. So author's last name, first name initial, the title of the project, title of the paper or abstract, and then the journal submission or a conference submission and so on and so forth. You can pick and choose submitted, published, presented. And these are three main categories. I think you have it as well. Submitted, accepted, published, and presented. Those are the four things you have for presentation, and I would do that for sure. Your experience of 10 years, 10 experiences as well. That's a great opportunity for you to highlight. The problem is they are very limited, like 1200 characters or something like that. So you have to be very creative, be very succinct in writing what you're writing it. You can't just write the words as well. You want to write maybe one or two sentences, what you did and what was your main learning, and that's it. And then you can tag your leadership and other capabilities, what you're doing it, what you think would be good attributes you learned during at that time as well. Third part before we go into question and answer session as well is that you can talk about uh, signaling the programs, picking up the locations and all those things. I don't want to sweat too much about it. I don't think so program directors are paying too much attention or they don't want to take that complexity for that matter. I would like you to pick and choose the locations which you have some connections with, either your family, fiance, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, somebody's there. You can definitely tell them in interviews that's the reason you chose this particular area as well. Somebody sitting in California and referring New York and saying, you know what, I like the East Coast, that's why I want to be there. It's better to say that, I live in there or my family is there, and that is a better approach when you're doing it. So signal picking up geography location is something. Sometimes there's a most program and you plan to apply to those areas as well. That's pretty good. Then pick up, choose that particular geographic location for sure, and write into a personal statement. You can have multiple personal statement where you write a personal space statement. If you're applying to these areas program, I will be using it because I talked about East Coast, or I talked about Texas, I talked about Florida, or talked about California, or something like that. So ERAS application is not built in silo. It is built in combination with your personal statement where you'll be applying for, and they have to keep that in mind. So with these three opening things, I hope it was useful. There are some questions I'm going to take. I think the first question coming out is like how to add the submit abstract and posters. Yes, you don't need to mention about different specialty. Your publication, people can read it. At this point, your goal is to match into residency you're applying for. You don't have to mention about cardiology or GI or pediatric intensivist and all those things. Your goal is to apply to primary residency, focus there. Pediatrics, internamedicine, psychiatry, OBGYN. That's it. Focus on that part. Don't have to mention about it. Hobbies, if you have places to do it, by all means do it. if they have a space to it, there's nothing harm in there. And then write down the genuine hobbies that might be a good icebreaker in your interviews. A program director or APD or a faculty member might be having the similar hobbies, or they might be interested. The difference between peer-reviewed journal article and peer-reviewed online publication. Uh, Online publication journal article is peer reviewed all the time. There's I don't know anyone is which is not. Sometimes peer review online publication is a conference paper. Some you present it, and then they come into their online journal. That too also journal as well, when they are doing when they're doing a supplemental difference. If your article is not published in a journal, you can just say peer review online publication for abstract article. Otherwise, you should have a journal article. If you have any question, we can talk after this. uh, Writing about your 10 experience with highlights with 3 and what should be written. Your 10 experiences are all your rotations, your research experience with GRSP if you're part of it, your clinical observership, your internship, if you worked as a house officer, you did a residency, all should be listed there as well. Pick your top 3. Usually I suggest pick top 3 what you think is the best, but at least you can pick one is as well volunteer experience if you have one education, and one research experience. Those are 3 things you can pick as a top experience. If you don't know what is, you're confused, pick any 3 clinical experience in USA if you have them. That is going to be your favorite. It hardly matters. Nobody cares. This is something they're giving it to you to make people's life easy, but they will look at your application in total. So don't sweat too much. Do diligent work, but don't stress too much about it. If you have done ACLS, BLS, absolutely, you can write down if you have it as well. It's not required. Any places you will match into, either most places I know which are academic, they will have you go through these trainings as during your boot camp. You don't have to go and kill yourself and do these trainings. Sometimes the pay programs don't do it. They will ask you to get the certification after March, April, May next year. You have plenty of time in doing it. You don't have to worry about doing it. It doesn't make a difference in your CV. If you've done something 3 years ago, it's going to expire anyways, because these trainings are already good for 3 years only. So wait for you to do all these things as close to possible to your residency, because otherwise you have to repeat them during your residency. There's a process for it. So don't get confused or misguided by people that you have to do all these things now. If you've done it, include them. If you have not done it, focus on research and education rather than you trying to finish these trainings as well. Because sometimes it costs a lot of money. If it is free to do it, why don't we do it before September 15th and include them as well? Don't go extra mile to get the training done. You can just say NA, and then you can repeat it right before your residency starts. If a publication pediatric should apply for IM, should I? Yes. Publication doesn't hurt you. Any publication would help you. List them in there. If you are more publication than 20 or 10, and then they only have a space for 10, then you can look into pertinent publications. Otherwise, list all what you have. Most of you I know don't have enough. So I would include them there to make sure that you are filling it there. There's no, all application part is important. Your personal statement is the most important thing. Second, followed by your LOR, and then your experience and researches. Each and every single thing in your application is important. So don't oversee anything. Don't there should not be any oversight for any part. Leave every angle that it has been, it's best to your knowledge and your capabilities. Don't worry about what they will look at it or not, but don't sweat. Don't take unnecessary stress that, oh my gosh, I didn't pick up my top 3 correctly. No, that's not the goal for that as well. GRSP, I think you can use them to research experience and training. I don't know. I don't think so. It'll be any difference if you're using your research experience. You can write down that you have experience from this date to this date as well as a research training, and include that word in there as well. So I don't think so that's any difference. Whatever suits you, that'll be a good idea. There are questions coming up. If you have lots of projects in making, will not be accepted in type of ERAS closure. How you can include them as well. The project which are being submitted to a journal or a conference, you can include them. For your own project, you know what journal will be good. Talk to your mentor and they can suggest, you know what, this paper we might be submitting the journal. You can write that in anticipation, saying it, this paper is under review or being submitted to this journal. I would hate to send it like, oh, you write down everything like JAMA. It's under review in JAMA. That is not a right expectations or right way of doing it. Goal is for you guys to write down that this is going to be submitted to be submitted to, or submitted to ATS or CHEST or SASCO or IID and whatnot as well. Or talk to your mentors and they can suggest you a journal that, that's where you should plan to submit it. And then you can write it that is under submission. at the time. If the paper is not submitted before September 15th, then take it off. Then don't write it, because that is not truth at the time. That's why it's good for you guys to push your papers and abstracts and things as soon as possible when you go through. Publication is only for first author, name of the research. No, it could be any author. You write down. That's why they have a list of, I don't know if you've gone into the application. There's a list of name of the people you can write down as an author. My understanding is that. So you can list down the number of name of the people in the order they are. If you're a third author, list yourself third. If you're a fourth author, list yourself fourth as well. Or open up, we can look at it now to see it if that makes sense. If there is only one place to write it, because you can't be the first author for all of them. And you not writing your other author papers is also not justifiable to you, because you did work on them and they should be part of your portfolio. So that is in this regard. LOR, we're going to have a separate talk about the personal statement and LORs. This is focusing on your ERAS application and any questions which I have not answered so far.
So if only abstract was submitted and the entire publication was not published in the paper, where do we put that?
So abstract, submitted an abstract, because abstract got submitted to a journal or a conference. It might be accepted to just submit it. It's, this they talk about project title was this, authors blah blah, and accepted in this conference. Or if it is conference acceptance and then it got published, it will be there'll be a supplemental file for it, and there should be a DOI as well. I can give you the different examples later on, then you can use it too. Otherwise, write down that it was presented in this particular conference. There's a lot of free text words, you can write it there. And use common sense, guys. You want to highlight your work, so don't miss something if you don't know. There are other ways other than publish. There are many different ways you can look into. If you don't get the best choice, second best choice is your best choice. So then write down that particular version there.
We have something called impactful experiences. So what to mention in this part specifically?
Yeah. So impactful experiences, I think something is the top 3 or impactful experiences would be is that if you have a good clinical experience, you can talk about your clinical experience there where you really liked it. If you're doing a research position or GRRSP, you can include that one as well, because it's 6 months, that is impactful. If you're a full-time research fellow, you can mention it. Or if you do a volunteer work somewhere, internship is not volunteer work. Volunteer work is that you did for Habitat for Humanities or something, or church, or in mosque, or temple, or polio pulse immunization, or something like that. So write it. So I usually say write down in each category: volunteerism, education, research, clinical experience, whatever is impactful for you. If not, put down your 3 clinical experience, see how impactful it was for you.
Mm-hmm. So it's different from the experiences we mentioned in the 10 experience. Like,
I think that's where you pick up out one of the 3. You can pick up top 3 or impactful from those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Priya?
Dr. Kashyap, I read somewhere that experiences cannot be of just volunteer for one day. It has to be for a sufficient period of time. Is that because for most of us, the extracurriculars in college and in medical school were of single day, though there were many, but they were of single day. So would that not be included?
No, I would disagree with that, because in America and other places, you usually volunteer for a certain time, weekly after weekly, for church, Salvation Army. I've done some of those. I've done those volunteerism and things for blood bank and things like that. So if you volunteer for blood bank in your home country, if you volunteer for an organization creating, and if you don't have enough, then if you organized a major conference in your institution or major culture feast and things like that, so you want to volunteer even for a day, I would include it. If you have a multi-day, multi-week, multi-months volunteerism, that should definitely take a precedence over this one. If you have nothing like that, I would definitely use even one day part of it, because you learn a lot as leadership, communication, personal experience, and all those things. I will definitely include that portion. Again, if I'm not being clear, your goal is to write something you did which fits the criteria they're asking for, rather than leaving it blank. That's what I'm going after. So if you're not fitting completely, but it is something which is, even one day experience, I would write it. and rather than leaving blank. Your goal is to write as many as things which are applicable to you. If something they're asking, you have not done it, and there's no way you can have anything fitted, don't fill it. That's absolutely okay to leave it blank at the time.
Thank you
So
so
having
much.
PubMed Index journal, absolutely, or is a value in a journal abstract is also worth mentioning. Yes, anything is worth mentioning. There are limit of it. I would definitely go with PubMed Cited and things like that on Google Scholar, ResearchGate, and all those things. And then if you still have a space, I will definitely put any journal abstract is worth mentioning. Usually, abstract or publications which are published has a DOI or PubMed ID or those things as well. You prefer them. If you already fill those things and still have a space, put down other information which is applicable. Don't leave it blank. Don't leave it. It's good to have them. You publish them. You do it. If they don't have a PubMed ID, that's okay. If they don't have it, you can't do much about it. That's why if people, all of you guys joined GRSP early, you will have something with PubMed ID. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. What is your question, Divya?
So if right now I'm doing something related to pediatrics, but then I'm applying for IM, SM and all that, do I put the pediatric experience also in the top 10 in those clinical ones or not? Because everybody's going to be reading the top 10 experience, right? Even the
Yeah, so your experience will be your experience. Your ERAS application is one. You can't have multiple ERAS applications. So my recommendation for you to include all clinical experience in your application and highlight one each for that matter. Is your personal statement is going to be, that's what I'm saying, that the attention to ERAS application and attention to your LOR, your personal statement LOR is going to be something people will give it. Your clinical experience will count towards you no matter where you have done. You can always help through your personal statement for a specific specialty, and we'll talk about it in personal statement section. So for here, you will put everything. You're not going to hide anything if you've done it. If you have 6 clinical experience and then 4 are in family medicine, 2 are in internal medicine, I would put all 6 of them there.
and no matter how old or recent they are.
If you have a space, if you don't have a space, put the most recent ones. If you don't have a space, if you have a space, put all of them.
Thank you.
Most recent, most pertinent always take a precedent over others. But if you have a space, I would fill it. It will not go against you. All right, I think maybe a couple of last questions. How to describe an experience? If you could just give an example. Ooh, that's tough one. That's why I want you guys to share your screen. How to share your experience? It's describing experiences. I think there's a 1200 characters, which is not a lot. Oh no, how many? 1200 some characters or even less? 500 characters?
1020. 1020.
1020 characters. So it's a lot. So 3 sentences you have to write, or 2 sentences. It'll be done as well. You write down that I had I had an amazing experience of clinical exposure of this thing. You don't have to repeat the name of that same institution because you're already writing it somewhere else. In this academic medical center, I get to learn I get to learn the procedures, and I get to do the charts and then consult the patients and then be part of their end of life care discussion or family interaction, something which you want to reflect. That's all you write down. You run out of 1,000 words, 1,000 characters, and then say that it was good for compassion or caring or leadership and listening, whatever it is. So make sure that you know what you're writing is going into that particular category. You'll be picking it up. And they have given the instructions there. Describe any challenges, hardship you influence the journey to residency. This could include experience related to family background, financial background, community setting, and the education part of it. So this is different than what is the top 3 experience you'll be looking into. Here you can talk about different part of it. I would not go too much of family hardship unless you really have it in terms of any immediate family members demise and things like that. Everybody's grandma or grandfather has died some point of time, and then when they died, nobody know that you're going to be a doctor. So don't try to overforce those things unless that is one thing. If they were a physician and then you were inspired and they had a hospital, that's a different story. I would include that for sure. Otherwise, try to talk about journal life experience, rural areas, or if you're the first doctor in the whole family, or in things like that as well. If you truly have a disadvantageous financial background and you got a scholarship and things like that, mention them. Otherwise, don't try to make that as a case for you if you don't have that. They will see through. when you have Gucci, Prada, and things like that in your background, and then you giving an interview and writing the financial background, or same thing for Rolex watches and things like that, iPhone and iPods, you are doing it on phone, they will know that, probably it doesn't look like they have a disadvantage background. So don't try to oversell it. All right, we're going to stop now. I hope this was a very brief initial anxiety relieving session where you can at least write down. It's not a one-day task. So I'll repeat it back, that keep working on it 2-3 weeks every day, refine it, read it, write it, let somebody else review it. You can write down these things to a Word document, take care of any grammar issues, and then copy paste it. I should not tell you that. It's a smart way of doing it, so you're not creating any grammar or spelling errors. And then last thing is that write only what you can defend it, what you have done it as well. Try to avoid any overlap. Don't miss out anything. If you have a space, write it there. You don't know what experience, what opportunities you have done it would come handy for you when at the time of interviews. We'll stop the recording now. Please watch and like and subscribe our channel, and then we'll come back to you with personal statement and maybe a part 2 if any other questions are unanswered.